Hello and welcome in. My name is Aiden Shields and I am the Sports Moron. So happy to have you join me today. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the Tennessee Titans and the problems that I've seen over the first 5 weeks of their season. I was curious to see if they were a top 12 team going into week 6 of the NFL season. I've been consistently leaving them off of my power rankings. I didn't really think they would be a top 12 team, but dove into the first 5 games of their season, and I do think they're on the fringe of being a top 12 team. But there were a lot of issues with the Titans that I saw on film that I wanted to go over today. One of my biggest questions is, can the Titans sustain their current winning streak? And I don't mean can they win, the next 11 games, 12 games of the season. That's not what I mean. I mean, can they consistently win games and put themselves in a position where they can make the playoffs? They started the season 0-2 and have since gone on a 3-game winning streak. I think that momentum is going to help them, but I don't think it necessarily is something that they will be able to sustain. Why do I say that? Well, I'm going to start off with the first thing that they do well, and it's really one of the only things that they do well, and it's their defensive line. They're able to generate a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and they stuff the run really, really well. Through the first 5 games, they've allowed 516 yards, which is a 4.48 yard per carry clip, and they've allowed 1 touchdown. Now, you're probably sitting there going, that's not stuff in the run. Like, that's really bad. They're allowing over 100 yards per game, over 4.5, almost 4.5 yards a carry, but they are, not letting the opposing rushing offense score touchdowns. But that doesn't make me go, ooh, you're really stuffing the run. But when you look at context and when you look at the data set as a whole, typically when you evaluate a data set, you take out any outliers so that you have a more baseline kind of read on whatever you're looking at. If you take a look at week 1, the Giants rushed for 238 yards and they scored the touchdown. That is the only rushing touchdown the Titans have let up this season. And if you take that game out, through 4 games, they've only allowed 276 yards on the ground at a 3.35 yard per carry clip and no touchdowns. Just removing that Giants game, you can really see how impactful this defense and this defensive line is against the run. Now, the issue with the Titans is that their secondary is atrocious. I mean, it's bad. Almost every single passing play that an opposing offense is going to have, they're going to have wide open receivers. And I don't mean like NFL wide open receivers where there's like 2-3 yards of separation. I mean like anywhere from 5 to 10 yards of separation on every play. It is bizarre. I don't know if it's the scheme. I don't know if the players are just not understanding their assignments. I don't know what the issue is exactly. I'm not in the locker room. I'm just a doofus with a camera. What I can tell you is that receivers are consistently left wide open. Through 5 games, opposing quarterbacks are completing 68% of their passes and averaging 304 yards through the air per game. They have given up 12 passing touchdowns, and they have had 4 interceptions, which is good through 5 games. I would say it's definitely really good, but those interceptions I don't think speak to how poorly the secondary is playing as a whole. I mean, Matt Ryan threw for over 350 yards. Carson Wentz threw the ball all over the Titans. You can't tell me that the Titans secondary is great. It's really not, and they're struggling against the pass. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, we're seeing a similar theme as the last few seasons in recent memory, where the Titans offense just runs through Derrick Henry. Now, through 4 or 5 games this season, it's been unimpressive. He has 104 carries for 408 yards. That's a 3.9 yards per carry clip, which is well below the NFL average. and he just got broken off. So that's really, really not good and not what you want to see out of your star franchise running back, especially the one you just paid all that money to. Now, it's not entirely all his fault. The offensive line is banged up. Their best offensive lineman, Taylor Lewan, is not playing. He's out. He's injured. I don't know what his timetable for return is, but it definitely hurts Derrick Henry's production. And then what we're seeing is Ryan Tannehill is simply not good enough as a quarterback to elevate the roster when the offense needs to run through him. Right now, he's 82 of 126 passing for 965 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's averaging under 200 yards passed per game. That is so bad. It's so bad. And you can talk about how the Titans don't have the best receiving core and this, that, and the other thing, but there's opportunity for him to do much better, and he's simply not doing it. Now, I do want to look at context as a whole here. So, in the first 4 games of the NFL season for the Titans, they scored on their opening drive. And in 3 of their 5 games, they have jumped out to a 7 to 14 point lead early in the game. Why does this matter? Well, as teams in the NFL start to trail another team, they move farther away from the running game and they move towards throwing the ball more. When we just talked about the Titans defense, what are they good at? They're good at stopping the run. So if they're ahead and the other team is throwing the ball more, what the Titans are really good at won't matter because teams aren't running the ball as much. So the defensive line and the linebackers are not stuffing the run because they're just not running enough. The secondary, as we've already talked about, struggles protecting against the pass. And when the offense starts out really, really hot, it forces the other team to play catch up. So they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more, which is why you're seeing the Titans secondary struggle so much. Now, through the first 2 quarters of pretty much every single Titans game through week 5, Ryan Tannehill has somewhere between like 1 and 4 incompletions. You see a lot of like 11 for 13 passing in the first half. And then it just falls apart in the second half. And the reason being is because they jump out to these big leads. They start losing them because their secondary can't stop the opposing passing offense. The Titans offense then has to run through Ryan Tannehill instead of Derrick Henry. And they just start fucking it all up. And that's where you start seeing the incompletions come in. That's where all 3 of his interceptions have come in. It is not good. The second half of these Titans games are painful to watch because the offense does not do what it does best, run through Derrick Henry. And Ryan Tannehill simply is not a good enough quarterback to elevate his team to have the offense run through him. He's shown it through 5 weeks. He showed it last year. It's just not his strength. So I do think the Titans are a top 12 team because they have won 3 in a row. They've shown that they're not a bad team by any means, but they cannot hold on to a lead and keep the lead as large as they can jump out to, right? Against the Colts, they jumped out to like a 21-10 lead, and the game ended 24-17. And that was before half, right? So you can't give up such big leads. And when you get to the playoffs, if you're the Titans and they make it to the playoffs, they're going to be a wild card or a divisional team. And they're going to lose in the first round to a team like the Chiefs or the Chargers or the Dolphins, the first playoff game that they get, because these teams are teams who have shown week in and week out that they can come from behind, that they can put up big points, and they have great passing offenses. The Titans are not going to win the Super Bowl this year. They're not going to have a deep playoff push. They just won't. And right now, they're a top 12 team. Will they stay a top 12 team for the rest of the season? Barring some magical comeback from a different team or Derrick Henry getting hurt, hopefully that doesn't happen. But if something like that were to happen, I think that's the only way they get knocked out of the top 12 moving forward. but they're going to be around the 10 to 12 range where they're going to make the playoffs and they're going to lose. And it is what it is.